Right, students, if you're in the room, if you're a student in the room, this is your moment. If you're a student, you can head out of here, be bailed out right before. It's going to get so boring in here. Trust me, you do not want to be in here anyway. It's good to see you guys. How are we? Yeah? Not too bad? All right, that's it. Hey, that was a strong B+. I'll take that. That was pretty good. I'm really glad to see you. My name is Lance. I'm one of the pastors here. If we haven't met before, I am so glad you decided to be here. Any scores? Any predictions? Come on, tell me now. Forever hold your peace. 24-21. Closer game than I want, but I'll take it. You have little faith. 27-16. I like that. All right. We'll lead from the very start. I like the we language. Go Hawks, and it's just gas pedal on. Yeah, it's like when y'all remember when we played the Broncos in the Super Bowl? Y'all said that like the day you got married. Yes, God. It was so good. There was so much joy. That is awesome. One more score. Come on, one more score. 21. I said one more, okay? Let's not get... I still got to get to the Bible, okay? Let's relax. No, I love it. Go Hawks. I think it's going to be great. Another event that happened recently. We always love when people are successful. We love when the Seahawks are successful. We like being associated with victory. We like watching it happen. We like when people do incredible things. It was a little over a week ago. Did anyone watch this Skyscraper Live thing? Type at 101. Some of you were like, no. You get nervous just thinking about it. Anyone, come on, raise your hand. Who watched it with me? Yeah, I watched it. I watched it live. We stumbled onto it live. We didn't really know what was going on. We had a moment and we turned it on. And I'm telling you, I got so stressed. This is happening around the country to a person I've never met before. And I was so nervous. For those of you that don't know, this is Alex Honnold. He is free soloed El Cap. He's one of, if not the best climber in the world. He climbs without ropes, without safety harnesses or apparatuses, just God-given hands and feet and no fear. This guy is unbelievable. They did a documentary about his life, and now he climbed the skyscraper, Taipei 101. Look at some of this stuff. Him just like hooked on here. Just before this, I can't make this up. He, in one of the other spots, he hooked his feet around it and took his hands off and just was kind of like chalking up and doing his thing. Yes, that was my face too. My hands were I was wringing water. I could have watered a lawn with my hands. It was crazy looking at him do some of these things. There were people in the building, which is wild too. And this guy's just enjoying a moment with Alex on the side of the building. Look at this. There's like no ledge. I get nervous getting too close to this edge. My heart's beating a little bit. And I got a 1.5 fall? I don't even know. My body can't handle that. This guy's excited. This is Alex, and he's doing amazing things. Just watching people do amazing things. Do you find it encouraging? Am I the only one that likes to watch encouraging movies? Likes to watch? I'm a sucker for any sports victory movie. You name it. I've watched it multiple times. Miracle. We got the Winter Olympics coming soon. It's just so many great films out there that inspire me to do something new. And I'm watching Alex Honnold sitting on my couch eating Cheetos, thinking these Cheeto fingers couldn't do anything. They couldn't grip a building. They couldn't make this all happen. But all of a sudden, I'm inspired to do something new. Why? Because watching people do something incredible just brings something out of you. And that's why I love getting into the Bible, because when I get into the Bible, I see God doing amazing things. We call them heroes, but through everyday, ordinary people, through normal people with the same struggles and frustrations and disappointments and heartaches as you and I, we watch it happen and we think, if God can do it through them, he can do it through me. And this new series that we're starting is called New Ground. It's really been the push from our lead pastor, Dave, across all of our campuses to figure out, what is new ground for us this year? For some of you, this is brand new. Church is brand new. Someone invited you. They said there were donuts. Hopefully you got a donut and coffee, and that's great. And they suckered you in. I'm glad you're here. For you, new ground might be showing up to church. That's awesome. For some of you, you've been around church for a long time, and you're thinking, I'm kind of used to this. It's kind of new. But here's my challenge for all of us. what is the new ground God would have for you? There's always a new frontier for what our faith could look like. And you're going to take new ground in a bunch of different categories this year. I mean, you name it. It could be a job. It could be a relationship. It could be financially. It could be, your health. I don't know what it is. But we're in church, so this is the context that we're talking about. For this series, here's the big question. Where do I need to take new ground in my faith in 2026? Where do I need to take new ground in my faith this year? Where do I need to take new ground, begin to do something new and experience God in brand new ways? It could be, the list is forever long. For some of you, it's a control thing. For some of you, you love to be in control, and control has worked for you. And when you're in charge, things work out. But you read the Bible, and it talks about faith. It talks about releasing some of your control and inviting God to take it in. And that's really hard for you. Maybe that's new ground. For some of you, it's new ground in your words, in the way you speak, in the way you talk to other people. God ranked it pretty high. Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, which is really hard to do. But then like it, to love a neighbor as yourself. So maybe relationally, it's new ground. It's with your coworkers. It's with your employees. It's with your family. It's with your kids. I don't know who it is. But for all of us, there's new ground to be taken. Maybe for you, it's in your confidence. Maybe for you, meekness comes easily, but confidence is really hard to come by. I don't know what it is for you, but here's what I know. You're smart enough to figure it out. And as I start to speak, maybe God's even bubbling some things in your head of like, oh, well, I hope he doesn't bring up this. And if your thing that I hope I don't bring up, that's probably your thing. That's what you're thinking God needs to bring up for you. And today I'm going to be talking through a story. We find it in the Old Testament, which is the first half of our Bible. The Bible's really split into two parts. I say this all the time. I hope you're sick of hearing it, but maybe you know the answer. The New Testament is where Jesus comes onto the scene. It's in the second half of the Bible. The Old Testament, first half, God's working through the nation of Israel. Starts with Adam and Eve all the way in the beginning. Then through Abraham, makes these big covenants. It's really, really good stuff. You think reality TV is good? You think Netflix has got some good stuff? You read the Old Testament, there are some saucy stories in here. There are some crazy things that God does to take new ground in people's lives. We call them heroes. One of them I'm going to be talking about today. I've actually never preached on this passage before. It's one of my favorites, but I've never spoken on it. So you guys are the test market. And if it sucks, I'll never speak on it again. Here's what it'll be. But in 1 Chronicles chapter 14, we catch up with a hero that you may or may not be familiar with. Even if you didn't go to church, you probably heard of him. His name's David. This is a little bit later in his life. Let's call it the middle. In the very beginning, we get introduced to David as a shepherd who gets thrown into the spotlight because he slayed this guy named Goliath. Remember David and Goliath? That whole thing, little rock knocked him out. It was really cool. And David becomes this mighty warrior. Everyone says you should be king. It's actually prophesied that he would be the next king of Israel. That's bad news for the current king of Israel, who didn't like that news very much. So he tried to rout out David all the time. He was trying to run him out of town. David is running around, hiding, getting away from things. He had opportunities to forcibly take the throne, but chose not to because God said it's not your time yet. So he waits. Saul, the current king, dies. David becomes king. And it's this new chapter, talking about new ground. This is a new season for David's life. He's got a reputation to get now. People are excited. What's this going to be like under David's rule? How is he going to rule? What's it going to look like? Here's a quick map to bring us there. This is the Mediterranean. We're here in what's current day Israel. We have Jerusalem here, the traditional capital of the region. But David decided to set up his new seat of power, at least from the very beginning, in Hebron, just south of Jerusalem. There's enemies all over the place. And when they hear word that David now is king, they don't rejoice. They don't throw a party. They don't do anything. And so what you would think is this new easy season for David becomes very, very complicated. And here's where we start in our Bibles. It says, when the Philistines, the same, Goliath was a Philistine. Remember, these are the people that Israel had defeated a few times. They had grown back strong, but when they heard that David had been anointed king over all of Israel, that David that they hated, the David they told stories about, they sneered when his name would come up, that David, they mobilized all their forces to capture him. They said, hey, it's still a transition of power. Things are early. This is a new season. Let's strike while the iron is hot. Let's get David out of here. And so in a season which should have been the most exciting for David, isn't it interesting? New ground started and conflict met him there. I put it in your notes this way if you're taking notes. New ground didn't protect David from conflict. It announced him to it. It didn't just protect him from conflict. He didn't think, hey, life was going to get easier now that new ground, God had set it up. He had anointed me king and it's all going to get easier. No, no, no. For parents in the room, any parents in the room? Remember the birth of your first child. Oh my gosh, what a glorious moment. It's new ground. Everything had become easier. You had ideas of what it was going to look like, the cuteness, the sweetness, and some of that was there. But didn't it have unintended complications to your life? Your schedule changed. Everything changed. The things that were normal were no longer normal. The things that were fun were now tiring. Remember sleep? Ha, that was a good one. Like all those things get thrown out the window because new ground doesn't always make things easier. Sometimes it makes things more complicated. And when it comes to our faith, what a warning to each and every one of us that when new things start, when God's doing something new, it won't come without challenge. But David heard about this, and this is where we continue in the story. David was told they were coming, so he marched out to meet them. The Philistines arrived and made a raid on the valley of Rephaim right to the east of Jerusalem, and they made a raid on it. So David asked God, should I go out to fight the Philistines? And will you hand them over to me? Two questions that are incredibly important that I think we can learn a lot from. Now, David, history of a mighty warrior. I mean, this guy had done incredible things, but still takes the time to ask the question. He asked the question of God, should I go out to fight the Philistines? And will you be there? What I think he's asking is a question we can learn from. Is this new ground even worth taking? I mean, this is, God, you've showed me an opportunity. You've shown me something to do, but for each and every one of us, we have tons of opportunity. But being discerning with your yes is important. You know this. You're smart. You've experienced it. Everything you say yes to, you're also saying no to something else. And we have to weigh that cost. So David, when he sees this opportunity come up, asks God first, is this ground worth taking? And this is the process of discernment. This is discernment. We all have to discern. You teach your kids this from a very early age. You look both ways before you cross the... You guys need to teach your kids this one. Did you guys not learn this? Is this new information to you? You're like, before you cross the, internet. No, not the internet. Before you cross the street, you look both ways before you cross the street. That's the process of discernment. Is this a good time to cross the street? David asked two questions, though. Is this a good time to cross the street? And is this street worth crossing at all? Is this the thing that even I should be doing? Back it up before opportunity. He says, is this the opportunity worth taking? And for us, before we take the next few weeks and we rile you up about taking courage and taking new opportunity and new ground, what a waste it would be to take new ground in an area God didn't even intend for you to move on. An area because it looked attractive, it looked inviting, maybe it looked easy. And you look at it and you say, well, this surely is what God has for me. But discernment would say, is this the time to do it? And is this ground worth taking? Now, it's easy to talk about discernment, especially as a pastor. It's easy to get up here and be like, oh, you should pray about it more. You pray about it. And in the Old Testament especially, it feels like people pray and God just audibly answers. Yes, no, yellow light, green light. He just figures it out for them. But I don't know about you. It's not always that clear for me. So I could get up here and say, okay, you should pray more about what new ground looks like for you. And you're like, cool, I'll try. But I don't know if discernment is as clear for me. In the 4th century, we see this theologian very early in the Christian tradition and Christian world. He equates the idea of prayer and listening to God to being a prudent money changer. His name is John Cassian, a theologian of the time, monastic monk. And he said it's like being a prudent money changer. To us, that seems confusing, but to them, it made a lot of sense. Roman currency dominated the time, and it was all in coinage. And so what money changers were able to do over so much time and so much experience is simply pick up money and discern whether or not it was counterfeit by its weight, by its size, by its texture, by its engravings. They could pick it up quickly, and it was apparently a thing to behold. They would grab a pile of money and be like, nope, nope, yes, yes, no, yeah, yes, 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 and they could count and discern so quickly because they were so fluent with it. They were so accustomed to it. It's all they did every day. And John says something interesting. He said, we as followers of Jesus should be like prudent money changers when it comes to God's word. That we're so accustomed to it, that we're so steeped in it, that we're so regularly engaging with it, it becomes like second nature to be able to throw out what is and what isn't God's. To be able to discern what God has for us and what he doesn't. And it was challenging to me. I won't speak to your faith, but I will speak to mine. I don't think maybe I've earned the privilege that it is to be mad at God that he doesn't speak clearly or quickly enough when I don't spend enough time around his currency. When honestly, I haven't invested the seasons into praying and waiting and seeing and discerning, God, what would you have? Because I like to move quickly. And so I know if I was a money changer, I'd be like, looks fine, feels okay, probably good. There's some questions, but okay. Like that would be me. And if I'm not careful, that's how I approach my prayer life, is not as a prudent money changer, but as one who likes to move quickly and say, God, this feels okay. I mean, you really got to close the door and get my attention if it's not. All right, I'm moving. Like that is how I tend to operate in my faith. And David shows us something different. He shows us what it looked like to wait in discernment. And discernment, if I had to define it, at least in this context, I would put it this way. Discernment is the ability to recognize God's voice before you recognize the results. It's to recognize God's voice before you recognize the results. I can oftentimes tell God's voice in retrospect. Like it all worked out, and I look back and say, God, you really worked that out. That's amazing. And that's great. That's gratitude. We should do that. But this is something better. This is before I see the outcome to recognize, God, I think you're speaking in this, and regardless of what the outcome may be, I'm going to trust you in it. And that's a version of faith that is incredibly daunting to me and maybe daunting to you as well. Good news for David is maybe it was just through time and it was effort. We can chronicle all these moments in his life where God had spoken. And the Lord replied to him, and he got this idea that, yes, go ahead. I will hand them over to you. The Philistines will stand no chance. He gets the green light to continue forward. And, well, what does he do? He moves forward into victory. So David, as a result of what God spoke and his discernment of it, and his troops went up to Baal-perazim and defeated the Philistines. God did it, David exclaimed. He used me to burst through the enemies like a raging flood. I mean, the poetry here, this is awesome. It must have been a decisive victory. And everyone looks at David and said, you are awesome. That's amazing. I knew you were the guy who was supposed to be in charge. You are the best. What's the first thing that David did? Not in false humility, but deflected. God, no, don't give it to me. God did it. No, it's tempting. It is tempting to look at me. But I checked with God on whether or not I should cross the street, and I looked both ways. So this is really up to him for stopping traffic and telling me which way to go. So he is going to be the one who gets the credit. In fact, let's do this. They named the place Baal-perazim, which means the Lord who burst through, not the David who burst through. Not God is working through mighty David even. It's just God is doing the amazing work. And from here, I'm tempted to end the story. I mean, it's a pretty cool story. This is where it usually would end. God did it. He won. Woo! Go God. Let's pray. And some of you are like, yeah, that'd be nice. Get out of here a little early. It sounds pretty good. But what's amazing is not where the story ends. In fact, directly afterwards, we don't know how long, but it's the very next verse. Here's what we read. But after a while, a week, a month, a year, we don't know, the Philistines returned and raided the valley again. And once again, David asked God what to do. Now, I mean, he's done it once. It's already new ground. He took it. God already gave you the green light. Just go do it again. Come on, it seems so clear on what you should do. And especially, come on, listen, for the people who are in charge, for leadership, aren't leaders supposed to be confident? Hey, they took back the ground that we already took. David, you're the man. Go get it back. Why are you wasting your time? I'm a pastor, but I mean, it seems so redundant to ask God again, to stop and pause in a world where every single person we know has a voice. I mean, let's be honest, everyone gets a voice into your life, don't they? Through social media and the internet, you go on, everyone's got a voice. And here's what I've discovered. Confidence is the new version of actual knowledge. That people, they seem to replace substantive knowledge and experience with just, hey, let's just be confident. Because let's be honest, what doesn't scream loud on the internet is, I don't know, I've been thinking this. What do you think? Humility doesn't go very far on the internet. What goes really far is, have you been struggling in your health? Well, I know why, Have you not been seeing the financial results that you want? Well, listen to me and I'll tell you about real estate. Those are the things that go. As somebody who stands up and says, I'm confident, I know what I'm talking about, so you got to listen to me. And what happens is the tone of our society goes from people who trust and have humility and are open-handed and seeking wisdom to people who are the most confident, speak the loudest. We recently put out on our socials, we put out a clip of me interviewing one of our former staff members about this nonprofit that he went to do. And it was just a section of it talking about how God spoke to him in the middle of it, challenged him. It wasn't super clear, but he discerned. And that season, like, okay, God, I think you have something new for me. It was scary, it was intimidating, it was really hard, but it was new ground. And God worked through it, and he was able to tell a little bit of his story. And you know this, comment section is free range. Anyone can put whatever they want. And a lot of people are really nice, but this is one of the comments. This is great. It weighs the same as everybody else. This is awesome. God's will is never better than our own. God's will is never better than our own. Which, theologically I'd have some challenges with, even some punctuation I would change in here. But other than that, I understand what he's saying. He's very confident and very clear about this. And you may think, well, every person's opinion gets weighted the same. This is why it's important to discern who you're listening to. You ready? I'm not hiding the handle for some sort of providence sake. Sad and miserable individual. How great is that? This self-proclaimed sad and miserable individual says God's will is never better than my own. I want to be like, well, if you don't want to be sad and miserable anymore, maybe try God's will. I don't know. Just an idea. But it's amazing what happens if we just take things at face value and say, well, that person's confident, I should probably listen. And here it'll be true. There's certain times that I'm writing a message. I'm just going to be transparent. I didn't even tell first services. Certain times I'm writing a message, and I like a point so much, I go, man, that's going to be really good. And I don't care what you guys think. I think this next point is really, really good. Listen to this. Confidence can sound a lot like faith until God disagrees. Isn't that true? That confidence, even for me, can sound a lot like faith until you check it with the Bible and God disagrees. That somebody's standing in front of you and saying, yeah, this is the way to go. It's like, well, they're confident. We sound a lot like faith until you check it against what God would have. And the last thing David wanted was to be the leader who was confident, but not in alignment with God's will. The last thing David wanted was to be the leader who was so confident and stood up and said, this is the way, but didn't check it with God's will. In fact, in Proverbs, we see an allusion to this as challenging to all of us. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. There's a way for each and every one of us. There's new ground that seems really appetizing, but at the end of the day, it leads to death. It leads to a place that you never wanted to be. So the process of asking a question, the humility to step down from your confidence and say, God, what would you have? And even, listen, even the people around you to say, God, what would I have? Maybe use my spouse, maybe use my kids, maybe use my boss, my coworkers, a friend, someone in my group, a pastor, to speak into my life because I want to know what you have. And when you ask that question, I'll be honest with you, the answer won't always be yes. Do you ever get to that season in your life? I know I do. Where you just want to hear affirmation. You don't want to hear honesty. You just want to hear, that's a great idea. We should do that. Like when I'm bitter at somebody and I'm mad and I go to a friend and I said, you won't believe what they said to me or they did to me. I want them to go full Carrie Underwood. I want to take a Louisville Slugger to both headlights. I want them to get mad with me. Yeah, how do we get revenge? What I don't want is someone to say, hey, I hear that, but you're being a little petty. Hey, I hear they probably could have phrased that better, but I think you're getting emotional about this and you're not seeing it clearly. I'm like, that's the last time you be my friend. I don't ever want to talk to you. So maybe you're like me. And you got to ask this question. In what areas of your life have you been looking for support more than honesty? In what areas of your life have you been looking for support more than honesty? Because my guess is David had plenty of yes men. Anytime you're in leadership, you got yes men. He could have gone to any one of them and said, hey, Philistines are back. We could take them, right? And they'll say, yeah, you're David. We did it last time. Look at your battle record. You're the best. You're the man. You can do it. Anyone would have said yes. But David wasn't looking for support. He was looking for honesty. And if you, this is honest. Hopefully you're ready to hear this. If you spend your whole life just looking for people to affirm your decisions, you are going to miss out on honesty. And affirmation feels good, but honesty is good. And I'll be real with you. If you only want yeses, you're probably going to stop asking God Because he won't always tell you yes. He won't always give you permission. He won't always give you the green light. Sometimes he's going to say, wait. He's going to pause. Or he's going to say, stop. Now for David, it'd be interesting because he already won the battle once. God just said, yeah, charge in and get after it. But God rewards David's ability to ask twice, even for this ground that he'd already taken. He says this, do not attack them straight on, God replied. Instead, circle around and attack them near the poplar trees. When you hear a sound like marching feet in the tops of the poplar trees, go out then and attack, but not before it. And that will be the signal that God is moving ahead of you to strike down the Philistine army. God gives him some clarity. It's not going to look the same way that it did last time. So what did David do? David followed through. So David did what God commanded, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way back from Gibeon to Gezer. Throughout the valley, they separated the Philistine army. They sent them back. They pushed them back in an incredible victory. Once again, David establishes himself not only as a leader who is capable, not only as somebody who is militant, but somebody who's discerning. Somebody who questions and asks, is this new ground worth taking? It's really challenging for all of us, but I think this surfaces, for those of you that like points and practicals, this next part's for you. You can lean in. For those of you that love this, it surfaces some things that are, I'd say, threats to how we discern what God is doing. Here's a few threats. They've surfaced in my life. The list is probably longer than this, but I'm only give you 3 because I want you to have lunch at some point. So here's what it is. 3 threats to discerning healthy new ground. First one is this, familiarity. I already know how this goes. Have you ever said that to yourself before? I already know how this goes. I'm very familiar with this. I don't have to pray about it. I don't have to ask about it. I am incredibly familiar, so I'm just going to move forward in my own strength and my own knowledge, my new way. Maybe God has something new in the familiar for you. Next thing is this, in success. It worked out last time. Success, oh man, success is awesome. I love success compared to failure. If you had to give me which one do you want, I'm going to pick success every single time. But success has its threats. It doesn't always just come alone. Success also comes with this confidence. And confidence, as you learned, can be dangerous. And if it worked last time, why wouldn't it work again? David had the opportunity to say that. And I wonder where you have the opportunity to say that too. Where you could sit down, and this is so hard because, I mean, you got a LinkedIn profile. You love to plaster your successes all over yourself. It's hard for us to take the things that we've been successful with, take our accomplishments and our victories and set them down. And in humility, say, God, what would you have for me? It's not just the things that I'm familiar with. It's not the ways that I've been successful before. And it's not just the places where I'm comfortable. It's not my comfort. It's the next one, I think. Yeah, comfort. I'm good where I am. I'm good where I am. I've learned a lot. I've been through a lot. God, I'm very comfortable where I am because here's the threat of new ground. You know this. You're a really smart person. The threat of new ground is it'll disrupt the ground that's finally stable. You've worked hard for something. You finally have carved out a little bit of tension. You were able to clear your calendar and watch the dude climb a skyscraper on Netflix live. That was fun. That was great. And the only way you were able to do that is because you have a little bit of comfortable ground and you're wondering, if God's inviting me to something new, am I going to be at the sacrifice of what I've already earned? The thing that I've already gotten? The fact that I'm already king and now I have to go fight another battle? This feels, well, uncomfortable. And for each and every one of us, this is the tension that we'll have to hold on to. In the very beginning, I talked about Alex Honnold, this guy. Look at those man hands. No wonder he could climb a mountain. I mean, that guy is unbelievable, the strength and discipline that he's built up. And scientists like you and I have been fascinated by him, especially cognitive researchers, because they're thinking, this guy climbs with no ropes. You and I get nervous watching him, never mind doing it. So they think the same thing that you and I think. Something's wrong with his brain. Like something is in his brain that is off and it is wrong. So they ran a bunch of tests, and what they did is they showed him things that would usually elicit fear. It would light up the amygdala in our brain. It would light it up and people would go crazy. They studied his brain while showing him fearful stimulus. And his brain was rather dormant. It didn't move. So they said, his amygdala is broken. No wonder he can climb the thing. And we all feel a lot better about that. Like we're like, yeah, sucker. And he pushed back. And he said, no. I have just been exposed to fear so many times, I know how to control it when it comes up in me. That yes, things are still scary for me. I just know when fear arises, I can discern it and I can move forward. He's like a money exchanger when it comes to fear. He holds it for a second. He goes, oh, I know what that is. I know this is conquerable. I know this is doable. I've proven myself I can do these things before. I'm okay with it. And he referenced something really interesting that the researchers hadn't taken into account. He said, you don't think I experienced fear? He said, I had a panic attack when I got into the MRI machine. You guys remember when we had to take breaks and I had to get out and I had to breathe and I had to do all the things? Because I wasn't used to it. This is brand new for me. Fear still exists to the person that I feel like is immune to fear. And that brings me a twisted sense of solace, doesn't it? To know that human beings are human beings. And David had slayed giants. He had heard from God. He'd been patient when he needed to. He did all the heroic and miraculous things and still took the time to pray about it. So for us, before we go and chase new ground, what you're going to do, and it's going to be awesome. Are you open to the idea of discerning whether or not it's worth chasing? Someone told me this a long time ago. They said the last thing you'd want to do is climb the ladder of your life and realize you propped it against the wrong building. It stuck with me. And the last thing I'd want you to do is take this year to climb the ladder of your faith and realize you got to a place you never wanted to be in the first place. Instead, to take the time to discern, where do I actually want to end up? God, what would you have for me? And in that patient moment of trying to discern and trying to listen, I don't think God corrects attempted obedience. I think he honors it. So if you're thinking, well, what if I choose the wrong door? Is your heart to follow after God? Well, I don't think he's going to punish you for that. It's not The Price is Right. You pick door number 3. Oh, it's door number 1. Have fun in hell. Like, no, come on. We serve a loving God who's for you and not against you. And that's good news. So as we end today, I'm going to invite us to do something maybe a little bit different. And if this is uncomfortable for you, that's okay. I understand. This is just between you and God. You don't have to do anything. I'm not going to do anything weird. But we're going to sing a song together in just a moment. Would you stand to your feet for me? You can set everything down. You don't need it for a second. Your kids are safe. You don't have to worry about anything.